Welcome collectors to another Collector Eject. Today we are looking at Sonic the Hedgehog 2, originally on the Sega Genesis. Nowadays it's available in many ways. The concept is simple. For the most part you're just running to the right, trying to get to the goal at the end, a lot like Mario. Controls are really tight and responsive. How long you press the jump button determines how high you go. If you barely press it, you barely jump. If you hold down and press the jump button repeatedly, Sonic will rev, and then when you let go of down, he'll zip forward. This is basically so you don't have to back up and get a running start like you used to in the first game. There are rings throughout the levels to collect. If you have rings and you take a hit, then you lose your rings, you have a chance to grab them again. If you have no rings and you take a hit, then you lose a life. There are a lot of objects to interact with. There are springs and loop-de-loops and a bunch of different things. The graphics are quite clear. You can tell where the platforms are. You can tell where Sonic is. He reads well. Even though he's blue and there's blue sometimes in the backgrounds, you can still tell where he is. Sometimes the enemies are pretty cheap. The graphics are fairly large, the camera's fairly zoomed in, so you can't see what's coming up ahead of you very well, and sometimes you'll run into enemies, which is kind of annoying. There's also water, which can somewhat be avoided, but it's quite slow and can be stressful because Sonic can only hold his breath for so long, and you have to get a bubble of air, and Tails also, as well, has to get a bubble of air every so often. You can play as Sonic, you can play as Tails, or you can play as Sonic and Tails. And if you have the cartridge for Sonic and Knuckles, you can play as Knuckles. Some people think Tails gets in the way, but I think he's useful. Sometimes he gets a ring, or gets an extra hit on the boss for you. There are 2 stages, and then a 3rd stage with a boss fight, and then it'll progress to a new area, so the graphics will change to keep things interesting. It's pretty much the same gameplay throughout, except if you have 50 rings when you hit a checkpoint, then you'll go into a special stage where you have a chance to collect a Chaos Emerald if you can get enough rings. If you get all the Chaos Emeralds, you can become Super Sonic, which basically means you're invincible and you move fast. It's easier on the computer to get the Chaos Emeralds because you can save your game. The game can be played with a second player in the main campaign, I guess you call it, the main single player. The second player would control Tails, but Tails, he doesn't really keep up. Like, he's useful in the boss fights, I guess, but it's not a whole lot of fun for whoever's second player. It's a fun game. It's fun to go fast, especially when you learn the stages and you know where the enemies are. If you like platformers, this is definitely a classic and it's a good game. It's improved over the original. The game does get pretty hard. If you can save your game, if you're playing on newer hardware, it's not so bad. But if you lose all your lives and game over, they give you a few continues. There's also many different Sonic games for the original Sega Genesis. So if you want to collect all the different Sonic games, there's quite a few. So Collector Eject. For a collector, I'm going to say definite collect, and for the casual gamer, I'm going to say definite collect. Thank you for watching. Have fun playing Sonic 2.